Right.
And
And
I think it says you are live. So we are supposed to be
live.
live now
And
on Facebook. And guess what, Suresh? We are also live now on Twitter. Hopefully, I'm not going to check, but I think it's live. Okay.
wow,
So,
live on Facebook and Twitter.
yep.
That's what life means. And hi, guys. Thank you so much for coming on board. I know what today is a new look day. Today we're going to speak of IPR, and talking of IPR and brand is so very synonymous. We can actually see a lot of branding around us. I can see April broadcast on top of Sandeep and value additions on top of me, and I can see a lot of
Yeah,
colorful things which will
that's a
become.
coincidence.
Absolutely. So we kept the best for today in terms of getting the brand. And what better than to introduce the brand on my left or on my right, whichever way you look at it. And the brand personified Sandeep Ohri. I'm not going to call him a
Uh,
human being. He's an IPR brand, patent, copyright, all personified into one. Sandeep, what do you have to say? I mean, I'm sure you're going to say I floored you for the first time, right? You're
yeah,
speechless.
yeah. So, yeah, I have no words to say. Okay, so let's not talk about each other, and let's talk about the program. Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Value Additions, the show where a good friend of mine, Suresh Menon from Value Additions. No points for guessing where we got the name of the program from. Okay, so the idea of the program is to give you professional tips to help grow your business. We are not here to give you any gyan. We are not gyanis. This is not a pravachan. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to, we have experts that come into the studio, and we encourage them to give you tips on how you can grow your business. So when I say tips, it basically means that it is something that you can actually do as soon as the show is over. Some of it you can do when the show is on also, but some of it you probably need to do better when the show is over. So that's what our plan is. And Suresh, so
Fantastic. And also, Sandeep, to
who
add to the
who do
tips,
we have today? Let's talk about that.
absolutely. Yes. And also, adding to you that apart from the tips, we're also going to give you a gift which you can take away from our
Oh
expert
yeah.
speaker.
Oh
And
yes.
that's what makes it short, crisp, like Sandeep said, tips that you can use to grow your business. No gyan, to the point today. And we're going to speak to the wisdom personified in this brand queen. And obviously, wisdom comes with age, right? It's all about age and brand wisdom, intellectual property rights, all mean wisdom. And wisdom is relates to age. So let me
Yep.
introduce the grand old. I'm sorry, I get
Grand old or grand old?
grand. I rectify
ah,
myself. Not grand old.
I'm just going to get her off screen, and whatever you have to say to her face.
Okay, I'm holding on here. Here she is.
Hello, welcome.
Here she is, the brand old, no, brand young, brand guru, the IPR guru, personified in modesty, Roshni Lachhwani, Advocate Roshni Lachhwani from Intellects. And she's going to tell one thing which floored me. And I'm going to be absolutely stunned today because there's one thing which we did pre-shoot and we spoke which says in today's world, in the COVID times, new normal, businesses might go up and down. But one thing that will always have value forever is brand. And you know what? Even if business go up and down, keep the brand alive, is what Roshni says. With that, it's my pleasure, honor, along with Sandeep, to get Advocate Roshni Lachhwani on board of Intellects, who actually has added so much value in copywriting, IPR, protecting, IPR advising, and brand building of so many brands. Roshni, before you say first words, over to you, Sandeep, for a quick
Yes,
pathway
what
for
we
Roshni to go.
yeah, okay. So what we thought is that in today's day and age, there is a lot of content that people are creating, especially content which is online now. A lot more online content has been created in the last maybe 3 months than what has probably been created, in the previous 3 months. And the reason for that is a lot of businesses have moved online, a lot of digital processes have moved online. As a result, the issue of who owns the copyright. So that's something that comes up always. And I think it was an optimal time for us to bring in somebody who could tell us for all these content creators out there as to what they need to do in terms of the content that they create and the brand that they're trying to build and the material that is eventually going to be out there on the internet. It's probably just about the easiest thing. You need to make a presentation. You're searching for some photos. You Google it. You get a nice photo. You put it in your presentation, or you put it in your brochure. Even worse, and you put it out there in front of everyone. And then suddenly, you're slapped with a nice big fat lawsuit, from somebody else. and all your effort has gone down the drain. So I think it's a good time for us to bring in someone who's knowledgeable about this, knows what we can do, and help us, take the right decisions. Yeah. So it's thank you for being with us today, Roshni, and I think I will turn it over to you, Suresh, so you can tell her
Yes.
to speak.
Okay.
Absolutely. So Roshni is absolutely crisp in the fact that we have to be clear that when we get more and more creative, these are times when we have to be extremely cautious about brand IPR violations and be on the right side of it. A stitching time saves 9. In this case, a stitching time saves infinite problems. And that's what Roshni is all about. Roshni, pleasure, honor to have you on board as the brand young ambassador for IPR rights across the country. Over to you.
Thank you.
About yourself. What's been a journey? How did you start off? And we go to the slide. Yes.
Thank you so much for having me here, first of all, and thank you for the opportunity. It's great to be here. So I'll initially start with an explanation of intellectual property. Many people keep asking this question that what is intellectual property? So intellectual property is actually the creation of your mind, anything that you have created, and intellectual property rights are something that protect that creation. So for example, we all know that ideas can't be protected, but the expression of it. Now the expression of it can be in multiple forms. For example, your trademark would protect your brand name, your logo, or anything that gives a brand a recall value. For example, it could be the smell, the taste, touch. I know it's surprising to hear, but there are a lot of examples with respect to that. For example, the Lamborghini scissor doors are a trademark. So no other car probably in the world can have that particular kind of scissor doors mechanism because it has a trademark value to it. Apart from that, moving on to copyrights, we'd like to explain that copyrights, protects mainly creative works. And many times, a lot of people ask me that, can we also protect our logo under copyright? And we understand that, a logo, only if it has an artistic element, would be eligible for a copyright. Apart from that, copyright really protects your cinematographic films, song recordings, music, then your literary works, for example, scripts, books, etc. Moving on to patents, patents would protect probably your products and processes. So, for example, the mechanism behind an iPhone would be protected under patents. Then even Kellogg's Cornflakes was a patent at a certain point of time. Of course, it expired after a period of 20 years. And then we have a lot of medicines, etc., that are created. Especially during the COVID time, we are hearing about a lot of drugs being developed and everything. So, of course, they will also be protected under patents. Moving on to the fourth part, which is design patents. Not many are aware about this. A lot of aesthetic look and feel and the shape of the product is also protected under design patents. So, for example, jewelry designs. Then we have De Beers and we have Cartier who have certain particular designs of bracelets or rings. For example, those are protected under design patents. Apart from that, jewelry boxes. Then we have different types of bottle shapes. For example, the Coca-Cola bottle shape was protected under design patent first, and then it moved into trademark, eventually granting them a perpetual intellectual property right. So that's my introduction about intellectual property. Fantastic. Now, what happens is that, during this time, especially, intellectual property, as Sandeep said, that, it plays a very important role because we are constantly developing content. People are writing articles. People are trying to utilize their time by thinking about different business opportunities, trying to, grab on those business opportunities. For example, we've seen a boom in the case of sanitizer manufacturers and mask manufacturers, and even with respect to multiple devices which are aiding towards protection against COVID-19 or similar kind of viruses. So we've seen a boom in that. In fact, there was a little fact that I'd like to share that approximately 16,000 companies have been formed during this period of COVID. So we can just imagine the number of brand registrations that were being done because and a lot of grocery stores are also coming up apart from that. So we are watching the entire boom with respect to the change of the business, the way you look at business right now has changed completely. We are seeing a boom in respect of that angle. And definitely intellectual property plays a very important role because apart from that, people are constantly marketing their business. They want to reach out to people and know that they exist. So they are creating content with respect to videos and, music, cover songs and so on and so forth, presentations and webinars. And it's very important to understand that, let's move on to the first slide before that, it's very important to understand that you have to not copy. It's very important to understand that when you're downloading from Google, you're downloading images from Google, and you're picking up information that's existing online. Maybe you're copy pasting it from an article as is verbatim, and you're not giving them any credits. You are absolutely picking up music from YouTube without knowing whether it's royalty free or not, and utilizing it within your videos, and you're not crediting those particular organizations or companies that own those particular properties. So it's very important to understand that when we are copying such kind of things, we can get sued. We've had a recent case wherein we had a $60 million suit filed against one of our clients because they picked up approximately 400.
Say that again. How many $1 million was it?
$60 million.
$60 million. Was it worth it for those guys to use this kind of stuff? I mean, what was their turnover? I hope it was a lot more.
They probably sold only 2 or 3 products out of that entire range of designs.
Oh,
and
it's funny that you mentioned this, Roshni, because a lot of people, I've noticed this, and we deal with some very prominent NGOs and organizations. You see, what happens is every time you turn around and try to make a promotional video for some project or some work that has been done, you typically have the habit of picking up a popular film song, and then you have your nice video which you shot, and then you put it to the timeline of a film song or a very touching song or a very enthused song, and now that song is copyrighted. You see, so what happens is, and I've seen this because we do this as a marketing agency. When we put it up on YouTube, okay, YouTube promptly bans the song, bans the video, probably will mute the audio or ban the video, or worst case scenario, ban the channel. But people don't realize this. This has happened. It has happened. First you get a very mild notification which comes and says you have been using copyrighted song of somebody. Like if you want to object, you want to do something. 99% of the people don't know where to click. So if they click something wrong, probably the channel will be banned. So while while you're handling the legal aspect, are there any organizations or anything is doing something to create this kind of awareness? See, we're doing some of it today, but awareness about the fact that you should not use, let's say, a popular Bollywood song for your organization video, for instance. So you need to look for copyright royalty free stuff which you either pay for, or there are some sites where you can get it. But are there any organizations, to your knowledge, that are actually doing this kind of awareness?
There are a few organizations, for example, Creative Commons. There are other few organizations which are the copyright in India, for example, the IPRS and PPL. So they do tend to create these kind of awareness, and I'm not saying that they don't, but I think unfortunately, and even the IP India, the also tend to create a lot of awareness programs through IP Nani and similar such videos that they create online. But however, what happens, I think the reach audience is limited to some extent. And that's why what we do is sometimes we also, as lawyers or law firms, we tend to have a lot of webinars, and we tend to have a lot of on-site workshops for a lot of startups and co-working spaces, so that we can reach out to them and explain to them kind of small.
Sandeep, sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So there's an interesting comment which has come up on Facebook.
Okay.
I'm just going to put it up on screen. Okay, it's going to obliterate all of us, but here's the comment. How do IPR rights work when it comes to that? Incidentally is my daughter. Yeah, she's an independent freelance brand consultant. Trust her to ask this question. So how do IPR rights work when it comes to work done by creative professionals for brands, especially in the realm of creating content? Some have it mentioned in the contract, but who gets precedent, the brand or the creator? Yeah, that's a fair question. There are lots of digital marketing agencies and who create this. So where do the independent influencers stand when it comes to content they create? Yeah, good question.
So what happens is this falls under the concept of work for hire. Now, as she rightly said that there are contracts being signed by a lot of graphic designers and creators who create content for brands. What happens is when you are creating content for a certain brand, it's clearly understood that you are creating for and on behalf of that brand, and it is a work for hire. So long as you get paid and you have agreed to completely give the copyright to them or the rights to them on the part of intellectual property rights in the contract, the completely rights become theirs absolutely, and it's absolutely as per the law. So whenever, even if for example there is no contract existing and it is understood by the framework of your arrangement that you are a work for hire artist and you've been hired for and on behalf of a brand to create something for that brand, that automatically becomes the intellectual property rights of that particular brand, so long as you've paid the consideration that you all have agreed to in the arrangement.
Okay,
And what I want to ask you now, Roshni, has to mention that in today's world, building, there's so much of creativity, innovation happening, and most likely that brand build might actually take a second seat. What is the right time for a brand or IPR to build? When a startup starts or when it gets some momentum? At what age of the organization for a new startup is brand building going to be an essential proposition?
I would say right at the beginning. I mean, many people have this misconception that let me apply for a trademark and let me sit on it for a few years. I'll rather tell you that in India, the laws side by the person who uses the trademark first and not the one who applies for it. So you may have applied for a trademark with a proposed to be used like a choice with proposed to be used, but you haven't used it. But somebody else has started using it and has definitely built their brand over a period of 6 months until and unless you've got a grant. Definitely, they will be given a priority over and above your application.
Fantastic. We'll go ahead with your tips. So tip 1 we got about the images. Go on to the other tip. Lockdown special was the first tip, right?
Yes, so I'd like to continue on that that front and say that definitely choose things that are available in the public domain, and we'll definitely share a gift on that at the end of it.
Sure.
Moving on to the next portion is definitely you must invest in IPR. Moving on from Suresh, question that he asked that when you should start use your IPR, and by using we say that invest in your IP. For example, create. Invest in your domain names, purchase the top level domain names, for example, your .coms, .co, .in for India especially. And you can also start investing in a lot of marketing. If you haven't started, manufacturing, for example, in the case of a product, maybe they've, held on to manufacturing and they've not started pushing out the product in the market. Maybe they can start marketing it at that front, showing a product launch or, building up, a kind of a suspense towards the product launch. So you can do a lot of those kind of activities. And further, apart from that, it's very important to understand that quality registrations are considered more important than quantity registrations. We've seen that a lot of companies tend to apply for a huge number of applications, and out of them, when we tend to do a due diligence, we find out that only a few of them are actually quality. So a lot of times we have seen that, in the past, a lot of registrations have been granted for, descriptive terms or anything that describes any adjectives, or for calling a shirt or calling an apple is not a trademark. That's a good keyword, so that's a great Google SEO keyword search engine optimization, strategy, but not a great trademark, because you can stop other people from using shirt for a shirt or an apple for an apple. So it's very important to understand that quality registrations are given more emphasis. Apart from that, you can definitely expand your, business through licensing, through assignments, through franchise, as you can see in the case of the Belgian Waffle Company or multiple other franchise like China Gate, etc., who've managed to, our McDonald's, one of the biggest franchise in the world. So they've managed to probably, create a great scale of business through this entire franchising strategy. So that's a great way to go about it. And definitely in the future, if you start investing in an IP, your IP valuation will be really high, on the basis of which you can actually be granted loans at a certain point of time if there is an opportunity in the future. And banks tend to, approve of this understanding that intellectual property is also an asset, just like property.
And it's a great asset class which actually will get a lot of value over a period of time.
So coming back to the thing that you said about people doing this quantity applications in quantity and not really bothering about what kind of quality. The thing that comes, this is like the brand equivalent of cyber spotting, right? So you register a whole lot of names, and hopefully somebody who wants it will then come to you and say, aha, now you have to come to me by your name, So Suresh, you may want to think of registering ourvalueadditions.com, before somebody else does it, So valueadditions.com, valueadditions.net.in, our value additions, and all the variants that you can think of. That's it, If somebody's listening to this program, they're going to sit on it.
The cat is out of the bag, and Facebook Live and Twitter Live, it's going to about 30,000 people. I have no idea how the secret is going to be controlled now. Thank you, Sandeep.
There's a follow-up question, that came up
Yes,
from
Shagun.
Shagun.
Yes.
Yeah. It says, thanks for clarifying. One question comes to mind. Does that put the independent creator in a difficult position when it comes to adding that work to their portfolio as creator for whatever content, for whatever brand? Is it still imperative to seek permission for that, even if it's clear that the IPR stays with the brand? So
Very, very
basically,
relevant.
this I think this is talking about when
Yes.
individual people create their portfolios that I worked on this project and I worked on this, so this is part of my portfolio. So do you need specific permission for that?
Yes, it is
It's understood
subject.
that the IPR belongs to that brand. So that's clear.
Yes. Yes. So of course it is understood here that it depends on the contract between the client and what kind of client you're dealing with. Sometimes the clients are not comfortable with you sharing this kind of information, that you are working with them. So in that case, what happens is there is a confidentiality clause in your contract, and it clearly says that you are not allowed to particularly state this fact that you have been the creator of this particular property. However, apart from that, what artists can do is they can definitely get in touch with the companies and ask them to make changes in the contract. And we have to understand one thing, that a contract is not a one-way, like a one-way boat. So what happens in that case is you have to definitely make an attempt to negotiate with them and tell them at the beginning itself, when you're kind of discussing the arrangement, that please kind of add this clause in the contract that I can use this particular intellectual property to showcase that I have worked on it specifically.
It's so very relevant. And before I ask the
Yeah.
next point, go ahead.
There's another question in. Yeah.
Sure. Christina, yes.
Yes, Krishna. You mentioned if a brand is not using a registered trademark, then somebody else can use that trademark. Would trademark
Yes.
registry accept such application and grant the same trademark which is given to a brand previously? Could you please elaborate on it?
Yes, definitely. I'll elaborate on this. So what happens, for example, if our value additions is currently being used by Suresh, and what happens is somebody else has probably filed for our value additions and has held on to it and has never used it. For example, this is with respect to India specifically. So what happens in this case is, tomorrow, if our value additions applies for an application with a priority date where he can prove with evidence that he has invoices, he has a turnover certificate, he has all the evidences. So for example, this moves on to our third slide, to be precise.
Okay, so let's go on to the third
kind
slide
of created a chain to our third slide. So what happens is you have to maintain record. I know that Suresh. Yes. So I know that Suresh is using this particular brand name and I'm aware of it, but the trademark registry is not aware. So we need to provide certain records to them. So for example, our social media page records, our invoices with the branding, and our records of creations with the date. So for example, the first time that you used your particular brand, if you have the records of that and if you maintain those, it becomes very easier for us to bypass that particular application and get your registration, because as per the India rules, it's clear that the trademark which is used first is given priority and not the one who applies first.
Very relevant, very, very relevant. And before we go to the next point, I want to say that Sandeep has been so creative in putting this entire slideshow live by April Podcast. If people, you can say hi, you can say a few other nice things. We look forward to it, because as an entrepreneur ecosystem, it's important for us to encourage each other. So we're looking forward to your highs and encouraging words, and we're actually gospel coming from this wonderful brand, young, wise IPR lawyer in real terms, because this information may actually make or break several companies. It's that important, because this is something we can easily forget in our quest for turnover, but this is the one which might turn the corner for several companies. Because like Roshni mentioned, there are so many companies now looking at brand being an asset class. You get goodwill for it, right? And also, Roshni, is there a marketplace where brands can be traded? I did come from Sandeep saying that our value addition register karke, can I go and sell it from here? Is there a marketplace?
Sorry, I didn't get your question. I'm sorry. I think I lost a little bit of network.
Where brands can be traded? Is there a marketplace where brands can be traded?
Brand exchange. So you have brands with their, seriously, you want to do that? Is Coke going to put their brand on the brand exchange? Somebody's going to pay me, $300 million or whatever $1 billion, and that's the brand valuation. Sure, but is there something like that? Jokes apart. Roshni seems to have left us. Yes, Roshni.
Roshni, can you hear us?
I'm having a little bit of network issue. Sorry,
Okay.
Please continue.
The internet is coming and going. Yeah? The internet is not going
Yeah.
anywhere. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I think you're back. Go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah. So the issue was, I think the question was that Suresh asked is there a place or a brand, like a brand exchange where people can go and buy and sell brands, or is somebody that does this kind of business also?
No, we don't really have a brand exchange as such, that exists. But definitely we have business brokers that tend to, help you and assist you in, getting the right price for your branding. Also, apart from that, lawyers like myself also do a lot of IP valuation. We tend to, put a value to your intellectual property. So, for example, I'd like to take some, not names, but definitely some cases where we see recent, bankruptcy of huge companies. And probably if that could be foresight of that company, if they could have, foreseen that particular bankruptcy issue, they could have probably, sold their brand name at a huge value and left at a good note and probably lost the goodwill. Because it is very important to understand that your reputation of your company is tied to your intellectual property. If you lose your reputation, you lose your intellectual property value. So it's very important to understand that, as long as you keep your reputation high, your value will always remain high.
Fantastic. Very sound words. We move on now into the last 4 minutes, Sandeep, before the gift
Yeah,
comes
okay.
in.
Yes, Yuvraj. Yeah, I think he said hi earlier and we never showed it up. So, Yuvraj, yes, thank you very much. It is an amazing
Thank
session so far, and we're not done yet. Okay, so Roshni still has a few things to go. So,
Actually, go on
okay.
with the gift for the day. If one more thing on the tips, you want a message to all the wonderful entrepreneurs watching this show. Over to you.
Yes. Yes. So I'd like to actually share a few websites apart from a little bit of the gift of email consultation to everyone. So they can drop an email to the email ID that they provide, and we can help you with any kind of one IP regime consultation on email. Apart from that, I'd like to give some free websites. So, for example, when you're using any kind of images from Google, what you can do is you can do an advanced search for royalty free or labeled for reuse images. Apart from that, you can use Freepik, unsplash.com. You can use Creative Commons. You can use images which are clearly marked as public domain or copyright with a cross. And you can also use 1001 fonts for free images. And I'm sure a lot of designers tend to know of these websites because it's their daily business. But apart from that, what I'd like to say is, even if you do basic Google search and you write for royalty-free songs or royalty-free images, royalty-free videos, you'll get a lot of content on Google with respect to websites. Also, apart from that, tend to read the licenses or get the licenses read through a particular lawyer or anyone that you know who is a little bit sound in the legal technical knowledge, to go through whenever you're using Shutterstock, Getty Images, because we've seen Getty Images or any Shutterstock images have a right to sue you for any kind of image. One image can be sued at the rate of between $750 to $15,000. That's how far it can actually go. So and actually the copyright law in the US has actually given them that particular range of amount that they can sue for. So it's very important to understand. You have to be aware about these things, definitely.
Yeah,
it's always so exciting. Yes, Sandeep, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It's so exciting to see brand as a value proposition actually showing up in India. It's an exciting phase ahead because so much of creativity, so much of talent gets unrecognized because brands get violated. It's a great beginning of a absolutely new class of creation, both for creators and for business people. Exciting times, 2020, right? Brands will get more and more recognized, especially in the SME space.
Yeah, but I think a lot of the SMEs, they feel that because every entrepreneur is self-motivated, self-driven chap. I must do everything myself, including making the presentation, including making the brochure. So brochure banane mein kya hai? So what's the big deal? You just download. You have the whole Google. Google is the god of content. It's everything out there available, just waiting for me to go and put a wonderful collage together of all the copyrighted wonderful songs and the videos. So that's something I think it's very.
Actually, I'd like to say one thing here, that we've actually seen people setting up logos for trademark. But the logos are absolutely copied from Shutterstock and have been and we've been asked to register trademark, and we do a Google Lens and we send them shot back saying that, look, you picked up this Google from Shutterstock, and they feel extremely embarrassed, and we feel embarrassed because we have to explain one thing that please create from scratch, draw it, illustrate it. These brands in the world have the logos that have been created from scratch. They were not existing online. They were not picked up from Google. So that definitely has to be understood here.
Fantastic.
So,
Really
yeah,
wise
so-
words. We have a minute to go, and final words, Sandeep, and then we say bye to.
So coming back to what Roshni is willing to do and is offering to do for everyone, an email consultation for any one IP regime. So if you have a question or any doubt, particularly on your brand, copyright, trademark, patent, whatever other words which you don't understand, and if you think that I made this and is this owned by me or does it look similar to something which has already appeared on Google? If you have a question on that, please feel free to send an email. I will put out our email ID here on screen, and here it is. Okay, so that's the email you need to send it to. Please send the email here. We will forward this after first checking whether you've not put it on Google or no, and then we will. I'm just kidding. We're just going to forward the email. Okay. So, and we just want to keep track, and we don't want to give out Roshni's email. Otherwise you spam her. So we're giving out our email. Please feel free to spam. So that's the thing. So please send us an email, and we will pass that on to Roshni, who will be nice enough to reply to everyone else.
Of course, definitely.
Yeah. So yes, Suresh. So what's your takeaway?
My takeaway is absolutely brand value. I'm looking to catch hold of Roshni and tell her, get me to the marketplace of selling brands. I've become a brand broker. So many ideas have come out now. Okay, thank you so much for.
You know what? Now I don't know who's going to snatch that idea of yours because it's already on.
I understand. But thank you very much, Roshni, for spelling this out, because this actually would have opened up over a period of time. This will get reposted and it will be add up a lot of value for people who say brand baad mein karenge, IPR baad mein karenge. It's so very relevant. And thank you for being so focused and being so much of wisdom personified at this young age.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for all the guidance. It's really, really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that's it, guys. Our 30 minutes of fame is over for today. Okay?
Exactly.
And we'll see you week after next with somebody else who will come and share some more professional tips so that you can grow your business. So for today, signing off here. Thank you, Roshni. Thank you, Suresh. And that's it. Let's exit.
Thank you, guys. Thank you all of you for joining in.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
God bless you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.